What if I told you lower tiers that are nowhere near as strong as Whitebeard can produce blasts of lightning because their power is lightning or whatever, so crazy that people are just staring at the moon minding their own business. They notice an explosion from the moon that far away, even stating the moon explodes. Because, you know, one of the characters in One Piece actually went to the moon and produced a blast on the moon. When you can produce blasts that are big enough to where people are minding their own business, they can see it all the way on the ground, on Earth. It kind of makes statements about the character I'm going over in this video make more sense. About, you know, Whitebeard's statements of him having the power to destroy the very world itself. Even in narration state and stuff like this. It kind of makes sense with his power, but oh, my bad. Am I going too fast for you guys? When I'm immersed in the One Piece world, I think of an RPG, a video game. A game where you can level up your character to get stronger by fighting new bosses, beating that boss, getting experience. That's kind of how I see this One Piece world. And one of the things that makes it so cool is that it's way different from our real life world. The islands and continents aren't even the same as our world. Matter of fact, the size of the One Piece world itself is implied on many occasions to be bigger than our own. But this world does have some similarities, like there's pirates and the government. Even though these two are similar to our real life stuff, there's also another big difference. Humans in this world can get way stronger than what us normal humans can with just hard work and dedication. There's even some characters that have unfair genetic advantages, like some characters like fishmen who are born 10 times stronger than your average human, so they got a jump start when it comes to getting strong. You got different races in One Piece, like abnormally large humans, and there's even beings that are born as giant, like you see the size comparison to normal people compared to these beings, so obviously they have a genetic advantage when it comes to their pure size. In this universe, there was actually a king of the pirates. He had his own crew, he was Gold Roger himself. But the most impressive part is that even though he was the king of pirates, he didn't have no special devil fruit power that, you know, there's fruits in this universe that people can eat to gain superpowers. He didn't even have this, but still miraculously became the king of the pirates. Even though he was the king of pirates, there were still pirates that could rival him in raw power, and that's that being known as Whitebeard, who I want to analyze today in this video. Let's get it. Bounties can deflect a lot of different things, but a nice component of a character's bounty is their combat ability. I mean, look at his bounty compared to Gold Roger himself. It's right under his, both in the 5 billion range, so it lets you know how strong he is. Not to mention the narrator straight up said that Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, because Roger was dead at the time, even while old and on life support, basically, he was still considered this strong. It was even stated by admirals from the Navy, the strongest man in the world, due to the fact narrated that he's the strongest man in the world at the time, you know, of course, before he died, of course. This is important because even characters considered super low tier can live. Compared to his strength, can move entire buildings. Luffy at the time was way weaker than Whitebeard, and he could still move buildings with his physical strength. So what the heck can Whitebeard do? He's not a fraud either, because when people are talking about the legendary pirate of Whitebeard, he's one of the few people that can battle Gold Roger to a standstill. At this time period, he was the world's strongest pirate. So don't be surprised in this video if you see me bring up Roger. It's stated in narrative over and over again that he was equal to the Pirate King himself. On top of the fact, we actually seen the two clash on screen, you know, when he was younger. I mean, it kind of makes sense when he can clash with the Pirate King himself. I'm talking about when these two crews clash, they battle for 3 days. Like, that's crazy stamina. With little minor bruises on his head. Same with Roger having bruises. Whitebeard's strength reflects on his bounty. You can see how high it is. Kaido, somebody else that's pretty high up on the food chain when it comes to power level, has a ridiculously high bounty too. Kaido stated that Whitebeard was one of the few people that can fight him, implying there's not many pirates in the world that can actually fight Kaido one-on-one. Despite Kaido being labeled the world's strongest creature alive or whatever, still considers Whitebeard one of the few beings that can contend with him. You know, Whitebeard's the strongest man, Kaido's the strongest creature. Which title has more weight? Hard to say, you know. It's easy to forget that characters like this were once a child, and while it is true that adventures may have happened off screen, they did go through their fair share of progress throughout the years. We just didn't personally see it as the viewer. Whitebeard is such a being like this. He started his journey. He had hair first. He was always an abnormally large human, though, so of course one could say he had a genetic advantage over others because of his size in general, but we all know he eventually rose the ranks. That was one point he even was on the same crew with Kaido. That's hard to believe. Of course, they split up and they made their own crew, so he had a lot of time technically to get strong. Wouldn't you agree? Of course, you got occasions like this where he looked like he was getting strong in his career, but this wasn't his strongest, I would say. I would say this is considered his strongest, and this is where his power and skill were declining slowly, but he still was considered the strongest man in the world, which is crazy, even while heavily suppressed from old age, beating him down, blah, blah, blah. In One Piece, there's a lot of different shapes and sizes. I already kind of briefly mentioned that you can be strong in a lot of different ways in One Piece. One of the ways Whitebeard is strong is just straight pure muscle strength and muscle mass and stuff with your muscles, of course. But in this world of One Piece, there's this ability to use your spirit energy to pretty much manifest spirit energy around your arm as armor. That's why you see characters make their arms and stuff black. Being a top tier of this universe, Whitebeard can do this stuff as well, but He's actually one of the advanced users of this technique. The technique has been explained like basically invisible armor. In One Piece, you can imbue this type of inner energy or inner willpower around your weapon to increase your weapon's attacks along with your fists. And techniques like this also help you to be able to clash with beings without actually having to make contact. It's like this in this occasion with him fighting Roger himself. This energy that is latent in everybody allows you to pretty much counter Haxi type stuff. Like it's explained on occasions like this when it comes to Haki that when you get enough with it, it can increase the strength of your attacks. It protects you like invisible armor, increasing your strength and durability. Whitebeard has this. You get strong enough with the ability, it can actually enter the enemy's body and destroy them from the inside. Completely caught off guard with a sword attack that goes all the way through his torso. This lets you know his pain tolerance. Even after sustaining multiple sword wounds, this kind of can show his willpower too, or pain tolerance. Multiple Marines just get swiped away. Marine minions, y'all get murdered. His willpower is so insane, even though he's not immortal. He got gangbanged pretty much by a whole bunch of pirates. Even after all that, he was still alive. Blackbeard was surprised, showing his willpower. Even after he died, it stated even his face have gone, his body would not yield. All of these injuries, but not a single one on his back. Willpower, baby. Never ran away. You need Haki in this verse if you want to be top tier because there's beings that are literally made out of fluid substances or elements that you can't hit them. Like how the heck do you punch somebody that's made out of magma, for example? Whitebeard can still punch beings like this. It shows that he has this ability on his Haki, where he can punch characters that are made out of elements solidly, because without it, these attacks would just go right through these elemental type beings. I mean, this is deviant art, but I don't think we've ever seen it actually make his arms black, but he can definitely do it in the lore. Other admirals that are literally made out of ice, intangible type beings, he can hit or stab thanks to Haki. A great example of the fact that he puts armor around his fist even though they don't animate it with black is this occasion when he fought this very strong being, Odin. Swords basically clash with his fist and you know, it doesn't even affect his fist. To let you know he has to have armor around it, even though they don't animate it that way, it has to be. Whitebeard does have a blade. In this particular occasion, he's not even using his blade. He's just using his fist. And of course, since right here he's in his prime, he, of course, with his punching power and everything put together, overpowers him. And along with this, he can mix in his tremor fruit with his attack. His fruit mixed with this armor put together makes his punches even crazier. On top of this, he also has super senses. This is basically called observation Haki, where it basically allows you to predict an opponent's move, like this being known as Ace. He's trying to stab him in his sleep, and he still was able to react to him anyway. So one could say this technique is like a spider sense if you know Marvel Comics. It can kind of increase a character's fighting speed because they already know what you're going to do before you do it, which gives them extra time to react, technically. His observation Haki is so crazy in his peak that it's basically a miracle that this guy was able to catch him off guard in the first place. It's only because he's old and not in his prime. This wouldn't have worked if Whitebeard was in his prime with blonde hair and stuff, you know? Like, he can literally sense people's presence even without being them. Shown here, can sense when a character is coming stronger than normal. Just like when he's not phased when people are sneaking up on him, even while old. It's a lot of facets about him that make him strong. There's this technique that Whitebeard has where he can knock out beings that are way below his level without even having to touch them if their wheels are nowhere near his level. He can do it. It's just in his war, he was heavily suppressed and was old and couldn't use his old techniques like he wanted to. Even while old and not necessarily at his youngest, he still can do powerful Haki to where he doesn't have to touch you. Conquer his Haki. If your will is not strong enough, it's pretty much kind of weeds out the minions or beings that are not even worth his time. He did this against Ace's crew and stuff. So on top of him being able to produce armor around his fists and stuff like that and increase his strength and durability, another reason why he's considered the strongest man in the world at the time is because he ate a devil fruit, which actually gave him legit superpowers. It allowed him to be able to create earthquakes. He's an earthquake man. In the anime, they imply that he could use the tremor fruit in his feet as well for a stone. It's crazy. Whitebeard's a huge human, right? But he uses a melee weapon. Imagine how scary that is. You guys already know how big these ships, the ship was moving. This can give you an idea of how strong Whitebeard's muscles are in general, because Whitebeard was able to stop the charge of the ship on the spot with one arm. Stopping that boat makes sense because despite his age, he's still the strongest of his own crew. I mean, he has crew members that are still strong, but not as strong as himself. Crew members like Jozu, for example. This pretty much proves Whitebeard can lift 1,000 or close to 1,000,000 tons because of his crew member that's weaker than him can throw big old pieces of ice that are bigger than giants. Yeah, this is Jozu down here. He threw that big old chunk of ice. Whitebeard can do this. If he was in that same situation and wanted to lift up heavy stuff, he could have did that too. The being known as Blackbeard, he ate the devil fruit of the darkness fruit. This fruit gives him the ability where if he touches a being, the devil fruit user will no longer be able to use their abilities, so you can't really rely on your devil fruit ability when you fight in Blackbeard. You need to pretty much rely on your physical strength. Whitebeard got an encounter with Blackbeard, and Blackbeard was using this darkness fruit that nullified devil fruit abilities, so Whitebeard couldn't use his earthquake fruit, stating his powers themselves are useless against him. Shown when Blackbeard absorbed hits from Whitebeard using these attacks. saying he can't use any more earthquakes. But thank goodness Whitebeard doesn't rely on that because he has super strength and he's good with a blade, and that's how he's able to cut Blackbeard like this. And that's how Whitebeard, even while old and battle damaged, face ripped off and everything, he can blast Blackbeard like this, proving that he's a physical beast without relying on his devil fruit, and his devil fruit isn't what gives him superhuman attributes. He still can use melee weapons, fighting skill, right? A great example of his strength is when characters, there's like literal giants in the Navy that are even bigger than Whitebeard, size-wise, but Whitebeard still can stop his attack despite the size difference. I mean, you got occasions like this where it's implied he didn't even really have to use his devil fruit, really. He just smacked them through the ship with straight physicals. So yeah, he's strong without necessarily having to spam his superpower. It's obvious he can punch really hard because obviously he can put ornament hockey around his fist, right? Invisible armor, right? But then he can actually layer his devil fruit or tremor fruit around that even more. And then you got to add on the fact that his muscles are strong too because he's an abnormally large human. So imagine all of this coming at you. It's no wonder somebody like this, when he swipes his big old melee weapon around, it causes this much collateral every time he swipes it. Or with his weapon, he will swipe away this many Marines, a ridiculous amount with one swipe. Y'all remember when these molten meteors were coming down because of one of the admirals of the Navy had him coming down. His weapon is probably super durable on top of this, but he probably used hockey to stop it, the weight, and apparently has strong lungs to blow it out. Strength. This is probably just a hockey thing, but check this out. Even while at old age, other Yonko level beings like Shanks he got in a clash with, when them two clashed weapons, they was able to create an impact that split the entirety of the clouds in the sky. This is like a common theme in One Piece that top tiers, when they fight, they split the clouds or the sky or heavens themselves. Everybody even notices in astonishment, they split the heavens. There's folks out there that calculate this type of stuff. Like, I don't think it takes rocket science for you to know that somebody's attacks can reach from ground level all the way to the clouds to themselves and split them that far away. I think we all can agree that would take a lot of force. Folks have calculated, not me, the force needed to do this would be enough to tremble continents or level a continent, one can say, or multiple continents. Some say tremble countries, possibly level a country. I feel like trembling a country seems more fair than actually destroying it though, right? But that's fine if you don't want to take that too seriously. Whatever he can do is old, his younger self can do better. So of course his young self can split the sky too with his hockey imbued enhanced melee attacks with Roger. Because we literally seen him clash with Roger and also blow away the clouds. So of course his young self can split the clouds or split the heavens, but also tremble the entirety of the whole island. Yeah, so it's obvious he can tremble entire islands without even necessarily using his superpower, tremor fruit. I mean, he had crew members like Ace, for example, who's pretty powerful because he has the flame fruit. He clashed with him, even though he can make flames as big as islands and stuff. This strong member known as Ace, we've seen Whitebeard entangled with. Yeah, Ace had his own crew at one point, but then, you know, he ended up becoming a part of Whitebeard's crew after getting beat down a few times. Even when Whitebeard was older, he still was messing him up. I mean, Whitebeard defeated him 100 times. I mean, he's not the captain of this ship for no reason. He's stronger than all his crew members who are ridiculously powerful in their own right, like Ace, for example, who can create dang near close to small island-sized pillars of flame with his blast power. And Whitebeard can still overpower him. Like, you see the size of the ship. So this island isn't the biggest island. It just kind of gives you more respect on how strong Whitebeard is if he's strong on all these people on his boat. So we know he's strong physically. We know he's strong when it comes to his hockey and enhancing his punches. But when you add all that on top of his earthquake or tremor fruit, you can get an idea of his blast power. He can create his own literal seaquakes. A fully fledged tsunami. Yes, it's a tsunami and it's huge. If you want to get a perspective, look how big these giants are compared to normal humans. You see when he does this with one blow or two, cracking the air here, it's freaking huge, dwarfing ships. Massive amount of energy he can produce. One can say bigger than the buildings or marine headquarters. Mountain tall water waves coming at him. Once again, I'm not math heavy. There's calculations online that calculate this to be similar to nuclear bombs. Like tsunamis in real life, of course. If we assume that Whitebeard can create tsunamis similar to the ones that exist in real life, that's like saying he's hitting you with nuclear bombs if he was to punch you at point blank or something. Implying his blast with this earthquake ability can wipe out a city. Real life tsunamis can get really freaking big. If we assume that Whitebeard tsunamis can get anything like our real life tsunamis, it can become bigger than the Statue of Liberty. Depending on the level of the tsunami, it can even be close to the size of the Empire State Building. or one could say even bigger than Empire State Building, and Whitebeard at will can just use his power to cause this type of destruction. There's a character in One Piece that's a part of the Navy that actually froze these big tsunamis that Whitebeard was producing, of course. And guess what? Later on, when these big chunks of ice were frozen, Whitebeard can blast these big chunks of ice down that were basically mountain-sized. This pretty much proved he can blast away mountain-sized structures with ease if he really felt like it with his earthquake blast. You know how in the Navy, in this universe, depending on your power level, you get higher ranked. I mean, there's beings that are pretty high up there in the ranks, like Vice Admiral level, the rank below the Admiral. And said giant tried to catch Whitebeard off guard. No, because he has super senses, he's able to block this attack from this being, break his weapon, and just drag him to the ground and blast him away, basically, tossing him away, just one shot at him. A Vice Admiral in the Navy, he took out like nothing. In this universe, the higher you rank, the higher your combat abilities. Oh, by the way, this guy was a Vice Admiral too. Even though he's bigger than Whitebeard, it doesn't matter. You're just not strong enough. Get punched away, giants. Even if you're Vice Admiral. Speaking of Navy ranks, there's even beings at the top of the food chain that have gotten in scuffles with Whitebeard. While Odin, not his prime, they actually tried to freeze Whitebeard solid, but his Tremor and his strength in general was able to break out of it. This is the same guy that froze like tsunamis worth of water, guys, and he couldn't freeze Whitebeard. This same Admiral, the Admiral Okaji, tried to blast him here with some spike ice attacks. From far range, Whitebeard, even from long range, can hit this icy being that's an admiral, the top of the food chain when it comes to the powerhouses of the Navy. It's too much evidence he can level multiple mountains, honestly, because we've actually seen Whitebeard clash with an admiral again, a different admiral that can control magma, a being that's pretty high up on the food chain when it comes to the power levels of the Navy. His attack with this admiral created this much impact, and when this admiral that's automatically pretty strong for the verse, one of the top tiers of the verse, tried to blast him with his super punch, Whitebeard counters it. This Admiral even said if we let him run rampant, the island itself won't survive. I mean, this island they was on currently, Marineford, isn't the biggest island known to man or nothing, but like you can kind of get a perspective of how big it is compared to like the ships and stuff. This whole area right here, for example, is the area that Admiral being froze. So that's just pure ice right here. He pretty much confirmed Whitebeard could mess up this whole island. One could say multiple city blocks. This building looks like it's about the size of a mountain, honestly. Here's another angle or perspective on how this island looks. If we take this statement serious, leveling mountains should be an easy feat for him at this point, and I don't think nobody is denying that he can definitely level an island at this point. This same Admiral that said this pretty much was telling the truth, because when Whitebeard was super pissed and punched this Admiral with so much force and actually won against this Admiral in a fight, might add, being at the top of the food chain when it comes to Marine fighters, he actually can beat. He pretty much split this gigantic building of Marineford, like this building that's bigger than average buildings. HQ building is collapsing. It's pretty much common knowledge he can level buildings, y'all. And he did this with an attack. Made this Admiral sleepy. Even Admiral attacks like this, Whitebeard can just swipe those attacks away. This kind of shows his pain tolerance fighting this Admiral. And a big chunk of Whitebeard's face got burnt off. Even after his face got split, he still won the fight, though. That's crazy. It's crazy that other admirals like Kizaru, being that's literally made of light, even blasted him, and he was this battle damage and was still able to do all of this to another admiral, made this gigantic ditch to where beings were falling down in it from his attack. Yeah, a split this huge that Whitebeard created. I mean, look how deep it goes down. So yeah, when they say he can level an island, they definitely mean it. Because not only can he shatter the fortress itself of Marineford, you see what I'm saying? This building in particular had to be like the size of a mountain. Whitebeard has this one technique where it looks like he's grabbing the air or whatever. Like one of his techniques of his tremor fruit, he learned he can like tilt everything, including this giant, for example. The ground itself tilts. The island and the ocean itself is tilting, guys. Yeah, his fruit is crazy destructive, blasting this giant back way like this. So he tilted a place like this and tilted this along with the ocean. Younger him can definitely do this too. Yeah, thanks to Whitebeard's raw power, he can tilt entire islands. And so can his young self, because we've seen him do it. I'm interested to hear how hard you think Whitebeard can hit. I mean, if he can do stuff like this, oh, what the living heck could he do in his prime? Imagine if he could level the One Piece continents. Bruh, the One Piece continents are crazy. I mean, it is stated on panel that he has the power to destroy the very world. Imagine him doing a Gatling gun of these, you know what, let me stop. Do you think Whitebeard, especially one could say in his prime, or even while this was stated, do you think he can actually destroy the world, or what do you think? Like, we all know the planets can vary in size. Even if you don't want to say he could level a Earth-sized planet, what if he can level a smaller moon-sized planet or something? the moon compared to the Earth is a drastic difference in size. So even if you don't want to say he can level something like this, what if he can level something like a moon or something? Because they do state that he has the power to destroy the world because of the tremor fruit. So even if we don't assume the Earth itself, maybe a moon or something. That would kind of back up the statement of them being able to maybe level multiple continents or continent or country. This statement, them stating he can destroy the world, kind of makes sense with the sky splitting calculations, because there's people that calculate this, not me. There's people that calculate be able to split this much cloud like this. It would take the force to level a country or a continent or multiple continents, stuff like that. This feat right here is actually shown on screen, and calculations say that this would take multiple continent busting levels of force or whatever, or a level of country or whatever. And we know he can do this in his prime as well. Matter of fact, blowing away more clouds. That would kind of add up with the statement of him being able to destroy the world, but that's none of my business though. Do you think he can level a moon or cause massive destruction to a moon? I mean, I know this video isn't about Enel, but there's lower tiers that are nowhere near as strong as Whitebeard that can make electric blasts so big that people that are just minding their own business, just looking at the moon, can see Enel's attack that far away, stating that the moon itself explodes. But that's none of my business. But he's nowhere near Whitebeard's strength or hockey and things of that such. Who's to say if Enel couldn't do something like that, then Whitebeard couldn't do something like that? You see where I'm going? We've never seen Whitebeard and Enel interact, but let's be honest, we know he can beat him. He may not be able to fly at ridiculous speed like in a straight line or nothing, but when it comes to Whitebeard's fighting speed, one of the admirals beings at the top of the food chain when it comes to strength in the Navy, a being that was literally turning into actual light. Like, he's one of the 3 admirals. You got light. This being can make weapons made out of light, turn into light itself, and then move. Despite this madness and Whitebeard being injured, battle damage, he was still able to intercept his attack. So how fast do you think he can fight in his younger days when his observation hockey was working or his super senses were working better? Obviously, he can't run this fast, but he can fight at near light speed or react to that speed, or just slightly faster than light or something of that such. If he can react to beings like Kizaru without getting blitzed. This guy Kizaru even says, have you ever been kicked at the speed of light before? Even goes as far as saying speed is weight. Even if you don't believe he can delete a country, I would say him being able to tremble the whole thing makes more sense. At least that's a easier feat than destroying the whole country. Or what about trembling multiple countries? You know, shaking the countries instead, multiple of them. What do you think? I'll see you guys later though. You got to respect them regardless of what you think. I got to say thanks for the donations, everybody. You got to respect Whitebeard though. I'll see you guys later though. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.